Welcome back to another edition of On the Marquee. I am your host, John Ballantyne, and I want to thank our sponsors for this edition, Joe and Terry Malis and the Photo Place out in Austintown. Our guest today has a long list of theater credits, not only at this facility on Glenwood Avenue, but also at the Market Street Theater. And he did such shows as Dial M for Murder. He did Chapter 2, and that's just a bare minimum of the list of his credits here at the Playhouse. I want to welcome Mr. Gene DeCaprio back to the Playhouse. Gene, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, thanks. Nice to see you today.
Now, you started, your first show was Anastasia in 58, 59 on the Market Street Theater.
Yeah, that's
Tell us
right.
a little bit about that.
Well, the Market Street Theater, as we all know, was just a small, I don't know if it was a former movie house or not, but you had to walk in to get down to the dressing room, down a flight of stairs off of the main street, whatever that main street is. I don't live here. What is that main street?
It was on Market Street.
Market Street. You had to walk down Market Street, get down the steps, then you had to go through a small door, and you were in where the dressing room was. And then the stage was very small, and you couldn't get a lot of things done there, but Anastasia was my first show. I played Dr. Sorensky, and I used a cane. I was a crippled guy, but and the lead in that show was her and her husband were both active here for many years.
Is it John and Rennie?
No. Another couple that worked here for many years. Okay, my fault, but she was very good, and she played, of course, Anastasia. Mm-hmm. And it was just interesting to do that, because it was sort of like when you saw pictures of people on Broadway doing shows, they were always going in these backstage entrances to the dressing room, which is what we did. We had a very funny, can I give you a very funny occasion?
Sure.
The stage was very small. You can't do too much on it. Mm-hmm. And it was not that many seats. I don't know how many seats. What would you guess? A couple hundred?
Well, if it was an old movie house, which I think it was, it's probably a couple hundred.
Couple hundred, yeah. And I forget the name of the show. The show required a gunshot. Mm-hmm. Why can't I think the name of that show? But anyway, I wasn't the guy that handled the gun, but what he had to do was not shoot the gun off stage. It was too close to the stage and was supposed to be an off shot from what the play was about. Mm-hmm. So he went out into the lobby.
Okay.
And he was going to fire in there. And in the lobby, on the left-hand side was the ladies' restroom. On the right-hand side was the men's restroom. So he's back there waiting for the time to come. Unbeknownst to him, a woman was using the woman's toilet area. Mm-hmm. So when it comes time for the shot, they tell him to do it. He opens the door to the women's dressing room and fires the gun. She let out a scream that was so loud, everybody on stage had to stop, because we didn't know what the heck was going on. And this guy was absolutely floored. He can't believe what he did. She thought she was being killed.
That's a classic story.
That is. Why do I remember that? I remember that more than anything else I did.
Well, it was different.
It was different. It was different.
Yeah. What was it like working at the Market Street Theater as opposed to here? Obviously, this is bigger.
Well, it was wonderful for me because it was my first show. First show here. I can't think what the other ones were I did here, but it was close. We formed close friendships. We worked together. It was fun working there, and I just enjoyed it very much. And I think we were reasonably successful, as I remember it.
Yeah, they were. I've been doing a lot of research for the book that I'm doing on the Playhouse, and Market Street was very successful.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah, they did well there. Now, when they moved over here, when they built this theater, it was a big deal when they built this theater in those days. The first show they did here was kind of an open house. In fact, it was called that because it was like a little review. Everybody, it was a great cast.
We were all in it.
What was that opening night like? I mean, you had all these people coming to this brand new facility that was built specifically just for the Playhouse.
Oh, it was, well, first of all, we got to use the backstage area, and we did whatever we were doing in terms of building. Now, we didn't have a set, but we had set pieces. We had, you know how big the backstage area was? We designed and made the sets. We had the whole workshop area, a whole area, and then the dressing rooms. And we had costumes. I remember I come on with some kind of a costume, walked out. Oh, I know what it was. I was supposed to be Rudolph Valentino, and I had the headpiece like that, and I walked out. And we just did all kind of really neat and funny things. Jerry, can't think of Jerry's last name. Why can't I? That's terrible. He interviewed me for this is another time that I had something to do on the stage there that night. I mean, another part of that evening. And he interviewed me for a funny thing. It was about a show that I was doing. It was very funny stuff. The whole thing was funny. It was good. There was singing. There was music. There was acting. Yeah, it was a wonderful night. A great opening. Gee.
I know they have photographs of it. The lobby was packed. The seats were packed. I mean, everybody turned out for that.
New place.
Yeah.
We made a. I wasn't on the committee, but a choice was made. The choice was, you put together a theater with 600 seats, or do you make a smaller 300-seat theater and make it more opulent? Better walls, better dressing rooms, that kind of thing. And the decision was to go with the 600 seats. So that's what we did for many years until we stopped using the balcony. But it was a big theater.
Oh yeah, it still is. I mean, not many community theaters have a facility like this. Not many at all. Now, you worked with Jim Cameron.
Yes.
Remember Jim Cameron? Tell us a little bit about Jim, because people today don't know anything about Jim because he's been long gone, but he came at a time that Fred Childress said when he came, he made the Playhouse a happy place. And that was on the heels of Arthur Circum, who I guess was a bit of a taskmaster. So tell us a little bit about Jim Cameron.
I'll talk to you later about Arthur Circum, okay. Well, first of all, Arthur was an older guy who had done New York directing. And for some reason or other, I don't know how, but they got in touch with him, and he came in. There was some good things and some not comfortable things, but he was a teacher. He actually wanted things to be done very well, and if you did a line or something, didn't do it, he'd stop you and get you back in it. And it was something, as you were an actor at a community theater, had not gone through. Nobody had done that with us before. I even noticed that today on some stages. You don't bring a director in like that. Oh, no. This guy, everything, the lines you did, the thing you said, what you did. Then we would meet after and go through exercises as an actor, and he would make us do it. He really made that good. He was tyrannical. And I remember one time, I think this actually happened, but I can't give you 100% accuracy. Some kind of a show that he was not happy about finally had the opening night. And the show starts, and in the back of the house you hear somebody saying, "Pull the curtain, pull the curtain, that is no good. They didn't do that right." They closed the damn curtain. After the show had started, he walked up and went back on the stage and said, "What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to do this." Da-da.
Oh, jeez.
Do you think you would ever try to make a mistake in a show you were in if he was in the audience?
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I've had conversations with John Yoder. I don't know if you remember John Yoder.
Sort of.
And he talked about working with Arthur.
Yeah.
And his main story was the Western Union plays, he said, was probably the worst thing the Playhouse ever did.
I don't remember.
And I guess even Arthur, I guess, attested to the fact that it just didn't make it.
Oh, here's something. That's why we had that program every year where we'd give out awards called the Arthur Awards.
Now, how did Jim Cameron compare to the way he worked?
Well, Jim was very, very easy to get along with. He was a nice guy. He was very much to try to help you do what you were doing, and that kind of thing. And he was a good director, and he brought a lot of people in. And I think I remember Jim doing a show. We went up to visit him. He did a summer theater when they used to do theaters in a tent. Mm-hmm. He did a show up there in either eastern Pennsylvania or lower New England, somewhere up in there. Mm-hmm. He did Most Happy Fella. Okay. That's terrific. Oh, it is. It's like an opera.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! You know who? Let me think of that. The guy that wrote that was.
Oh, I can't think of his name. Yeah.
He wrote that, and he wrote the music and every other thing. He was a very famous writer.
Yeah, it's a great show.
And Jim was in that. And he came back here, and then for a while there was a little difficulty getting people to try out for shows. Why, I don't know. But we did a show called Country Girl, mm-hmm. and we couldn't get a lead role. I was in it. There was a guy who played an actor who was drinking a lot, a woman who was on his back trying to get him to stop and to act, and a guy who was a friend who worked, I think I might have worked for her as a newspaper reporter. Mm-hmm. I did that. We couldn't get a person, so Jim did the part. He played the actor in Country Girl. Mm-hmm. I think Bing Crosby did that in the movie.
Yeah, he did.
But he had been drinking and all that, and I worked with him, she worked with him. She and I fought because we weren't sure what we wanted him to do. And he ended up doing a very good part. Mm-hmm. He was very good. And he directed, I think he did the first musical here.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't come to mind what it is. I think there's some titles in my mind, but I'm not sure which one it was. But yeah. And actually, I think it was Finian's Rainbow. I think it was Finian's Rainbow because they did it in the arena.
In the arena?
They did it in the arena.
Yeah.
Because that opened the arena that year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The big stage show he ever did was that show about people working at a mining kind of camp, and then the truck come in with the music and all that kind of thing.
Oh wow!
Oh, it's a big show. They did a movie of it. Mm-hmm. I think he brought that in. Mm-hmm. We were so happy. We couldn't believe we were doing a big musical because as you look, we didn't do any musicals mm-hmm. in the beginning. No. Well, what are some of your favorite shows that you've done here? Some of my
whether they be Market Street or here.
Yeah. Probably Death of a Salesman, where I played Biff, the son that had the problem with his father. Mm-hmm. A show called The Price. I was a police officer, and my brother was an older guy and was a woman, and we were three of us. Johnny Griffith and I were in Who Was That Lady I Saw You With? It was a funny comedy. Mm-hmm. I liked comedy. I loved doing comedy.
Now, was Sis Soller and Rennie in that too?
Was she in what?
Were Sis Soller and Rennie in that too, Rennie Griffith?
Yeah.
Okay, because I ran across a picture. You have a tennis racket in your hand, and I couldn't figure out what show.
Suite.
Oh, California Suite. Okay.
You should have known that she had a problem. Why would you keep lobbing? You son of a bitch, that's all you did was lob, lob, lob. That was the opening lines in the show. And we finally get John to come over, and then we fight, and we had an argument. That was Rennie, John, me, and Sis.
Okay.
It's a funny show.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of these photographs here aren't labeled, so we're having trouble.
Well, those two suite shows, California Suite and Plaza Suite by Neil Simon, or each one had 3 shows in it, three complete plays in it. And that was one in California Suite. There was another where a guy had been drinking, and his brother gave him a girl to sleep with, but he fell asleep, and all of a sudden his wife comes into the hotel, not knowing she was coming. He kept telling her how sick he was, and go get him some drugs down at the drugstore. But that was one of the 3. And the other one, which was my favorite, and I did that in other places, particularly in Newcastle, where we were doing stuff. Lynn Rafferty and I were doing plays for evenings there at the Hoyt Center. And that was the the girl who was getting married. They had a daughter who was supposed to be getting married that day,
Right.
and she locked herself in the bathroom, and they couldn't get her out. And you got Lynn trying to get her out, and Lynn has got a nice hat on under her dress, and she's yelling. And then the father comes in, the guy who played that was Walter Matthau. What the hell is she? What's going on? What do you mean she can't come out? Don't get me. He goes, hey, come on out, it's time to come out. Come on out. What's the matter with her? She wouldn't come out. He tried everything. That was one of the best roles I ever did. He tried everything you could think of to get her out. He then runs up to the door of the bathroom, ram into it with his shoulder, and he's very quiet. He said to his wife, I broke my arm. Go get me a doctor. So they go get her. She said, you can't get a doctor. You got to get her out of there. He couldn't get her out of there. Then what he does is he goes out the window and says he's going to walk along the balcony to look into the bathroom window to see what she's doing. He goes out and there's a rainstorm, and he's out there like that. He gets caught in the rainstorm, and she thinks he fell off, and she's looking. He's out. He fell off. He killed himself. He's no longer in here. I got to call somebody, and the people down below are calling, where are you? What's going? Oh, first of all, her part was so funny, too. Wish I could think of the girl. She was a great actress, a funny actress. But she would say, you got to come out of here. They're going to be calling the phone call. They're going to be hello, how are you? She would change the mood she was in, just like that. From that to this, hello. So anyway, she does see him. He's knocking. He comes in the window. They had to get me with water. He said, I was out there in the waters. I was fighting with pigeons to stay on the top. He comes in and he's all covered with wet. He hits the thing. He uses the chair and hits the door. And he's saying, oh, I know. As he goes out the window, she grabs him, doesn't want him to go, and we had the tux fixed. She ripped the whole back of his tux. And he goes like that. And he said, when I come back, I want you to have 2 scotches here waiting for me, because that's all it's going to be. She ripped his whole coat up. And so he comes back in.
Well, when you worked here, you worked with some of the real giants who worked here, the Griffiths, John Abbey, and it goes on and on and on. What did you learn from some of those people, and what was it like sharing a stage with what we can, what we consider now icons from the Playhouse?
Well, we went through the rehearsals together, number one, learned a lot from the director, and all of us learned, wasn't just me, every one of us, what we had to do. Once we started getting into our own part, and then we were doing the show together, the fact that we were together meant that I trusted you for what you were going to do relative to you and me and our scene. I trusted the other ones for making the show better, and we all felt the same way. We got to have a good show. And we acted like that. We did that together. We were very good actors and actresses. It was a long time. We did a lot of stuff together. John Griffith and I did a lot of shows together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, a lot of comedy and serious. He was in Death of a Salesman.
Yeah.
He played the son, the other son. John later went on and did the show himself here. John Griffith played the lead.
That's a powerful show.
But that was later. Anyway, we did that. Bill Pound, do you remember the name?
I know the name, yeah.
Beefy actor. He played the lead in Death of a Salesman. He was good. And I forget who played the wife. She was very good. It was a very good show. We did well together.
Now, at that time, they had a volunteer base that the list went on forever. I mean, you didn't have any trouble in those days finding volunteers. What was it about this place that got people involved? Why did people want to come in and help out? Because I know today it's very tough finding volunteers to do anything. But
Well,
back then,
yeah.
we had tons of them.
Well, when in the beginning, and then when we got this huge theater here, this became, you had the Youngstown Symphony, you had the the art center up there, and you had the Playhouse. That was what the big things you had here in this community, and this place was a wonderful place to bring people to come in. You had 600 people for a show, and you did 5 shows. That's where the people who came, because this was the social and intellectual in many ways and artistic center in the community. That was it. And for what we knew, we heard, we didn't fight the fact if somebody told us. It was the largest community theater in America.
I don't doubt that. Yeah, I don't doubt that.
So I didn't know. I believed it, but because it was big, we had a lot of people here, and it was something that people wanted to come, and we had good seasons. Jesus, when you look at those seasons, those are all terrific, good shows. A lot of comedy, a lot of serious shows we did. People would come backstage. You people are as good as the show in New York. We saw it in New York. Everybody says that. Everybody. We of course, you don't believe it, but you want to believe it.
You want to believe it, sure.
But that was it. We were the social, the artistic, the intellectual center of the community. Well, YSU, of course, would have been an intellectual center too.
Now, once you got established here as an actor, what criteria, if any, did you set up to determine what roles you wanted to audition for and portray?
One of the difficult things, you brought that up. If you belong to a community theater, and I see this happening in Newcastle Playhouse, and other places, you have a play reading committee. And it's very difficult to get 7 or 8 people to decide what 6 shows you're going to do, 7 shows. My God, that's tough. That is tough to do.
It is.
And then the other, remember Bentley, Lenhoff? Oh, he was a good director.
I was just going to ask you about
He was a terrific, Arthur Sorkin was good, Jim Cameron was easygoing, Bentley was tough, he directed well. I remember he once said to somebody, if you don't do this part better, I'll do it tomorrow night in drag. That's the kind of a guy he was. But he was terrific. Bentley was terrific. I'm going to jump here for a minute.
That's fine.
One of the best shows that I did, now you're bringing it up because I can't remember them all, was the one about the jury is out debating whether or not their guy's going to be convicted.
12 Angry Men?
12 Angry Men. We had 12 very good people. And he actually acted in it. Bentley acted in it.
I didn't know that.
The play was directed by Bob Tornello. Remember Dr. Bob Tornello?
Sure.
He directed that. We did it in the arena. That was a damn good show.
Oh, yeah.
12 Angry Men. Everybody in that show was good. Okay, let me jump back to
But I
what
didn't
you
know
would...
Bentley had ever been on stage. That's interesting.
Yeah, he was on stage. One of the best shows I did with him, because my mind is going back to shows, was The Best Man. That happened during the election, the Nixon election, and I forget who he was running against at that point.
Was it the Kennedy-Nixon?
No, it wasn't Kennedy. It was the guy they had up at that time was Adlai Stevenson.
Oh, okay.
So I played that role, and Joe Scarvell played. Actually, he was the Nixon role, and we had our wives in it, and John Abbey played Harry Truman.
Okay.
Who came in, and he had to drink each time. Who came in was trying to tell us what to do. He was in favor of me playing Adlai Stevenson, and he said stuff like, "You got to get out. He's out there fighting against you. You're not saying anything. You're always doing things and you're trying to build things up intellectually. You've got to go talk to people." He kept saying that to me. And in the end of the show, I feel that I wasn't quite ready, and it was something where there were arguments and that type of thing. And I said, I'm not running, and I told about a guy and told Truman who I would like to have run. So they got the guy. It was a good show, happening right there at that time. Right there at that time. But Bentley was a great director.
Well, what was it about him that made this place a success? Bentley kind of had that magic touch for this place.
He did. It was, well, you would ask me how we did the shows. Well, when we picked the seasons, they were very good seasons. As I look back on those seasons, I think, my God, look at that. We're doing all of these shows. A lot of them had just been on Broadway. A lot of them were going on Broadway. So we had a good season. We had a great theater, the building, and Bentley was very good, and we had people who wanted to be here. They wanted to act. So what we had going then was Bentley being probably the premier director in getting the place built up. And he was very good. He didn't kid around, or we got along with him. But he directed very well, and the shows were good. So that would be the final thing, wouldn't it? You did good shows.
Right.
People came, Jesus, they saw a great theater in Youngstown.
Okay, well, on the business side, because he's one of those rare directors that was good both on the business side and on the artistic side.
Yeah.
Usually you have one or the other. His artistic sense seemed to be unequaled as far as this place was concerned.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And because when he came back, I think he was back here again in what, 2004?
Sort of,
somewhere.
yeah.
And it kind of rose up again to the level almost that it was previously.
Yeah.
So he kind of had that magic touch.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
He directed a summer place.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that? I forget the name of it. It was up somewhere like in Minnesota.
I think it was Petoskey, Michigan.
Petoskey, Michigan. Michigan. We went up to see him once. It was a nice summer theater. So he was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of directorial experience. You know, it was interesting because here we were in Youngstown doing those shows, Broadway shows, and some of us I had like leads in shows that were Broadway shows. And we had some of the people who were very good here who left and went to New York. Mm-hmm. And when they got up into New York, they somehow got onto equity. And they were equity actors, but they were working as bartenders. Yeah. They did little simple things. I'm doing the lead in I'm doing the lead in Death of a Salesman, and I'm talking to some of my friends, and they hadn't done a show. Mm-hmm. It was just a funny thing where they were considered professionals and we were considered amateurs. Exactly. Well, it's true, but on the other hand, they weren't doing what we were doing. If you were really interested in acting, we were doing it. Right. But if you wanted to be a professional, you had to go to New York. Let's face it, you had to go. I got to take a quick break here and thank our sponsors again for this edition, Terry and Joe Malis and the Photo Place. Give us a sense of, okay, the Playhouse obviously grew even more when it came to this facility, whether it was public curiosity that brought people in or whatever it was. It continued to grow past that. It's kind of hit some bumps along the way. What does the Playhouse need to do to keep that community support, to keep that community interest going? And I know there's a lot of competition now that there wasn't before, but what do they need to do to maintain that? Well, unfortunately, you don't have the cadre of acting people who want to be actors like we did. And he would direct. He'd have a show, and he'd have a tryout, and he'd have to turn 15 people away because he'd already picked. Well, you don't have that problem, I don't think, here. I don't know. But we had enough people to do good shows. Mm-hmm. You got to get people interested here to trying out again for shows. You got to have a good season, I think. You may have to decide to do shows that don't require a whole bunch of people who had a lot of training and background, something that you could do a little easier maybe, not more simplified, but easier. Mm-hmm. You got to have that. You got to have the people. You got to have a very good director, because he could make them better than what they came in as. Yeah. And how do you get more people to come? That's always the big question. That's a big question. That's a big question. That's a big question in New York. It's a big question everywhere you go. How do you get people? Yeah. Especially you got to have good shows. You got to have good people, and good directors. Mm-hmm. You got to have three things.
Tell us a little bit about the arena. Most people today who are here now have no concept of what the arena was.
Well, the arena was a chance to do very serious shows that in some ways we didn't think would be that important on the stage. In fact, the Newcastle Playhouse is doing one we did, A View from the Bridge. It was an Arthur Miller show, a very heavy, serious show about a guy and a family, and he has a daughter, and you had some people coming in as immigrants from Italy. It's an Italian family show, and the girl falls in love with one of the immigrants, and the dad doesn't like that. And he calls up the immigrant officers, they come in, they get the kid. And the kid's brother comes in and kills the father. It's a serious show. It's damn serious. So that's the kind of things we would do in the arena. We did that. We did the show where the woman is trying to get a young boy to get himself feel good about himself and be part of what his life was. And the people thought that he was gay. She goes in and has sex with him to make him feel growing up. It's a wonderful play. Wish I could think of the name of it. But that is a very good show. We did that. We did, I wish I could think of more names. They'd be in there if you wanted to grab one and tell me. But that's the kind of stuff we did down in the arena. It was very good.
The arena was kind of fun because you could configure it any way you wanted to configure it. And it was a more intimate setting, obviously, than the upstairs.
Well, yeah. You had the seats. It was a time when people talked about arena acting, central acting, meaning you've got to have shows where the director keeps the business so that you're not constantly standing with your back to this part of the four-part theater. You got to move other way. Some of the things you need to do are with your back to where people would enter. They had places where you would enter where there were no seats. And so you had that. And so you had to have the direction where a lot of your action was there where you didn't have the back. But when you had this, you had to keep people moving. And you had to say, okay, now you got to look and see what these people over here are going to do. Are they going to hear you? But you could hear, you could see, and you were close.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And I think for at least at the outset of the arena, they did shows downstairs and upstairs simultaneously because they had that option of doing that.
Had that option.
Yeah.
The arena was mostly in the summer. That's where we did the 12 Angry Men. You can imagine how that show, 12 Angry Men, and you're right there.
You're right.
It's like you're right in the room with those people debating. They were the jury.
Exactly. Yeah.
The arena was a great way to do shows.
It was a great space.
That was great.
Yeah, it really was.
We did a lot of good shows there. A lot of good shows.
Well, Gene, our time's about up.
Okay.
I want to thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. And,
well, I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's
you.
very important. And I think as you get people used to coming here, you'll build. I know you're building that up. You got a director now. He's doing good work.
Yeah, Jimmy's doing a good job.
Yeah, he's doing good work, and you'll start to get them in.
I hope so.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you, Gene.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
it was a great part of my life.
Well, good,
Yeah.
good. Thank you very much for being with us for this edition of On the Marquee, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.